Hi everyone, so this lesson is on social control and crime. Firstly, we're going to define social control, then look at the description of different types of social control and explain how we are controlled in society. And then we're going to apply our knowledge to an exam question. So just as a definition, social control is the different ways that our society tries to ensure that we all conform to the rules, the norms, the expectations and laws. So there's two types of social control: formal and informal. So informal social control is usually based on approval and disapproval from people around us. So it's those informal ways that we all control each other's behaviour. So we might use rewards or positive praise, or we might use negative sanctions like punishments in order to control each other's behaviour. Formal control is when our behaviour is controlled through a special organisation that exists to enforce order in our society. So I've got some examples here of formal and informal agents of social control. What I would like you to do is to split them up and see if you can figure out which one belongs where. So the police, we know, is an organisation that is a formal organisation that is there to control our behaviour. So I would put police under formal agent of social control. So have a go at doing the others. On the next slide it has the answers, so you might want to pause the video here and have a look at the answers in a moment. So here are the answers. So the ones in green are the informal agents and then the ones in blue are the formal agents. So informal agents, how do they actually control our behaviour? So what I want you to do is think back to one of our first lessons that we had when we started the course, where we looked at positive and negative sanctions and the agents of socialisation. So I've got the agents of socialisation around the outside. What you need to do is just to write inside what the positive sanction is and what the negative sanction is. So in religion, you've got that promise of heaven if you're good and the punishment of hell if you're bad. So I've done that one for you. Work, I've done half of it for you. So you've got the example of promotion as a positive reward if you do well at work. What is the negative sanction if you do something bad at work? Then think about your peers. How do they reward you? How do they punish you? School, and finally family. Have a go at filling those in yourself. Next, we've got the formal agents of social control. So all you need to do here is look at the formal agents on the left-hand side and match it to the correct explanation on the right-hand side. So again, pause the video here, have a go at doing it yourself, and then look at the answers in a moment. So here are the answers. Most of these we might not have heard of, but we have heard of obviously police and courts. They will be the main sort of formal agents that you might talk about in an exam. These are some others that are also formal agents of social control, but essentially they're all bodies that are there to make sure that there are laws, that we adhere to the laws, and if we break the law, then we are punished. So have a go at answering this practice question based on what we've just learned. So identify and explain one type of social control. So obviously you get 1 mark for picking formal or informal. Then you need to give an example of a group or an institution associated with formal or informal. And then you have to explain how behaviour is controlled by that institutional group. So give examples of the positives and negative sanctions. So I might say one example of social control is informal. I might pick the family, and then I would say how the family controls my behaviour positively and negatively. Next, we're going to look at prisons. So I want you to look at 2 case studies of 2 very different prisons to what we're probably used to seeing or hearing about. So one is in Austria, not Australia. In Austria, there's a minimum security prison that's designed to give inmates more responsibility, comfort and freedom. And they want to try to give inmates a chance to change their behaviour. And similarly, Norway has a prison that's very similar to this. It's again a minimum security prison, very small, only 110 inmates. And inmates have opportunity to do extracurricular things like cycling, fishing. They have a lot more freedom than prisons in the UK. And reoffending rates, so they were less likely to offend again once they had been to this prison. So in the UK, in Europe, the average is about 70%. So 70% of criminals will go on to do another crime even once they've come out of prison. Whereas in Bristol prison, only 16% go on to reoffend. So have a look on those links. They're links to YouTube pages. So the bit in blue, just click on those and the YouTube link will come up. So we now need to think about, are prisons effective? Okay, so on the next slide there's a lot of information about are prisons effective, and it's got arguments for and arguments against. What you need to do is sort that information into the correct boxes. So firstly you need to decide if it's an argument for or if it's an argument against, and then you need to decide, does it link to the arguments around retribution, so trying to get revenge? Does it link to arguments around rehabilitation, which means to get prisoners back into society? Does it link to deterrence, so that argument to try and put people off committing a crime? Or does it link to protection, to protect people from harmful criminals? So I have done the first three for you. You just need to have a go at doing the next few. So the first one has been done for you. You can see prisons are a severe punishment and deprive an offender of their liberty for sometimes years at a time. This means that they are effective at providing the victims and the families of the victims with a sense of that justice has been done. So you can see this one clearly links to that idea of retribution, or to get revenge. And this is an argument to say prisons are effective because they help get revenge for the families that want it. I've done the other two, so have a read of those, and hopefully that should give you some idea of what you need to do. So here's all the information. As I said, 1, 2 and 3 are done, so you need to do 4 to 8. So what are the alternatives to prison? Number 1 is fines. Number 2 is community service, which is where you don't go to prison, but you might have to do street sweeping or removing graffiti from walls, as you can see in that picture. And the last one is tagging, where an electronic tag is placed on the ankle of an offender, and the GPS will track where they go, and they're not allowed to go outside of a certain perimeter. So it might be a mile radius of their house. They often also have to be home by a certain time. So the positives of these alternatives are, 1, they do not take prisoners away from their family or their home, and obviously we know that that can be quite distressing. It also helps the community feel like they're instilling responsibility in those offenders, and the offender has to pay back to the community directly. Statistics show that it reduces offending by 6%, so they're less likely to re-offend, although 6% isn't particularly high. On the other hand, the problems are it doesn't really act as a deterrent to crime. Often, particularly rich people, they might think, well, I'd rather pay the fine than adhere to the law. Some people don't mind doing a bit of community service if it means that they get to break the law. And often they might see crime as being they might see this as a soft option. So it's seen as a bit too soft, a bit too lenient. And actually we should be a lot harsher to people that commit crimes. So what do the different theories say about agents of social control? Well, functionalists would say that agents of social control are useful because we need boundary maintenance. We need someone to teach us the correct norms and values of society. So prison sentences are therefore a good thing because, and you can finish this sentence off by saying, prison sentences help tell us, how severe crimes are. So if a prison sentence is very long, we know that that means that that crime is particularly bad and that we shouldn't do it. On the other hand, you've got Marxists. So formal agents of social control are a tool of the bourgeoisie, and they serve to focus on the crimes of the proletariat. Prison sentences are therefore a problem because we can say that it's a way for the middle class to control the working class. And obviously, this is a problem for Marxists. So what I'd like you to do now is look at this 12-mark question. So I've written most of it for you. Discuss how far sociologists would agree that formal social controls are necessary to prevent crime. So we're looking at, is formal social control like prison needed to prevent us from committing crime? So I've got all the information there. I'd like you please to put in the correct blanks. The word bank is at the bottom, so you should be able to find the information there.